Every drug lord currently on the DEA's most wanted list. A couple weeks ago, I made a video about the FBI's most wanted list explained, and you guys seemed to love that topic. And in that video, I said if you guys wanted more videos about more lists, I would make them, and I'm a man of my word. So today, we're going to be discussing the DEA's most wanted list. The DEA is the United States Drug Enforcement Administration, and is essentially the governing body over all of drug activity in the United States. If you watched Breaking Bad, then you're probably pretty familiar. With that being said, let's discuss the drug lords that the DEA is currently looking for. Silvano Francisco-Mariano. Silvano, also known as Rayo or Rayito, is a 5'9" male born in 1981. And it may be no shock that this drug lord is wanted for drugs. But let's make this a bit fun. Quickly think, what drug do you think this man was involved with, and what do you think his role was? Silvano allegedly operates secret laboratories for the Sinaloa cartel, and these laboratories produce fentanyl. Fentanyl that is made from precursor chemicals that is imported from China and processed into fully formed fentanyl in Mexico and then distributed into the United States. That's his alleged involvement from the DEA. And as far as his list of offenses, that's an entirely different story. Silvano is currently wanted for the following alleged federal violations: fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking, and conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering. I had to throw that in there. That's a pretty crazy list of alleged offenses, and I think it's no surprise that this man is considered armed and dangerous. And I also think it's no surprise that this man has a heavy reward for any information, that being $1 million. However, if you were looking to cash in, you are a bit late, because fortunately, this fugitive was actually captured at the time of recording this video, and I guess we'll see what happens from there. But despite being captured, they're still listed on the most wanted list. So if they're still on the list, I definitely wanted to include them in this video. It's nice to start the video on more of a positive note, with justice being served, although, as we'll quickly see, this isn't always the case. So let's keep going. Liborio Nunez-Aguirre. Liborio is also known as Karateka, and is a bit of an older gentleman. He stands at 5'10", weighs 190 pounds, and was born in 1957, which means he either didn't save for retirement or just loves his job. Jokes aside, the crimes this man is alleged for are no laughing matter. Like the last fugitive, try to guess his involvement and drug of choice. Okay, pause if you need more time, but we're just gonna keep going. His list of alleged federal violations goes as follows: fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering conspiracy. Now, does this sound at all familiar? Yeah, it's because it's basically the exact same as the first guy, which I suppose makes sense because this is the most wanted list, and these are some pretty heavy allegations. Oh yeah, his last known location actually is unknown as well too, so this guy could be anywhere, so that's good. But at least there is a $1 million reward available to anybody who can provide information on Liborio. I would potentially recommend looking at the local shuffleboard or potentially a retirement home, as I mean, he is of age to kind of be spending time there, and also those places do have a lot of drug activity, albeit typically of the legal variety. This man is once again also considered armed and dangerous. Let's move on. Gabriel Nunez-Herrera. You know what, real quick, before we get into this, I'm gonna say it because I've had comments in the past. I've famously mispronounced some Spanish words, like charo, also bone is a Lorona. So now I try to pronounce them accurately, accent and all. But yeah, I want to get that off my chest because I can already hear it. Oh, why is he trying so hard to pronounce it? Like, no, you know what? We're here, we're doing it. Okay, but let's talk about Alan. Alan's a bit interesting because even less information is known about him than the previous two. Not only is his location unknown, but also his height and weight aren't even known. All we know is that he's male and born in 1993, making him the youngest entry on this list, actually. And with the lack of information, let's get to the alleged federal violations. All right, what do you think? Ready? Okay. Fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, conspiracy to possess machine guns and destructive devices, and money laundering conspiracy. So far, this list has been pretty formulaic, but trust me, it doesn't stay that way for the entire time. But the first three, like literally the exact same laundry list, which I guess now, you know, if you're out there looking to get on this list, you have a pretty clear template of what you gotta do. But let's move on. Chuen Yip. I know the list so far has been a bit formulaic, but Yip is definitely here to shake almost everything up. His laundry list is extensive, and his reward is also the biggest we've discussed so far. Yip is 5'8", 150 pounds, and was born in 1953, so even older than the last old guy we talked about. Now, once again, guess. What was Yip's drug of choice, and what was his involvement? Did you guess Title 21, USC 846? Well, you'd be right, but you probably didn't guess that. And this is weird. This is the first person on the list where it just didn't tell us exactly what his alleged alleged federal violations are. But don't worry, I did some digging and I got to the bottom of it. He's being charged with a huge chemical distribution scheme, specifically for anabolic steroids and for fentanyl precursor. And not only that, the U.S. Attorney's Office has filed federal charges claiming that he is one of the world's largest anabolic steroid producers, which is insane because, I mean, he doesn't strike me as a bodybuilder, but maybe that's why he's got away with it for so long. Like, the dude is like 70 now. The specific drug crimes Yip has been alleged to commit is the following: conspiracy to possess with intent to distribute anabolic steroids, conspiracy to possess with the intent to distribute fentanyl precursor, conspiracy to import anabolic steroids and manufacturing anabolic steroids and fentanyl precursor with the knowledge that they are unlawfully imported. And it also appears that the government's already taken action to stop Yip in his tracks, because on November 18th, 2021, the U.S. Attorney's Office seized a crypto wallet that was linked to him with over $2.3 million in it. Although, if he's one of the largest distributors in the world, it's very likely that that's really only a drop in the bucket, but it's something. The thing about Yip that's interesting is that he wasn't necessarily importing or manufacturing drugs per se, but he was manufacturing and importing the precursors to these drugs, knowing that they would be bought and used to produce both fentanyl and steroids within the US and likely other countries as well. I'm assuming he did this to have some sort of distance and layer of plausible deniability, but due to the sheer scale that he was producing and importing, potentially fueled by greed, it eventually caught up with him, and obviously the DEA and US Attorney's Office is not buying it. Fortunately, there is a last known location for this man. Yip is still believed to live in Wuhan City, a city in China that became very famous in the last few years. And within Wuhan, he still owns and operates the YC Chemical Group. That's not crazy. What's crazy is the sheer volume that this business was doing according to these court documents, which stated that his company was responsible for producing and distributing approximately $280 million worth of anabolic steroids, with over 55 million of those being distributed directly to the US over the last 5 years. And it seems like with this scale, they weren't being exactly cautious either, as the YC Group was literally advertising the sale of illegal steroids on various websites. Funny enough, Yip in 2015 actually attended trade shows in the United States, bringing his company's vice president and sales manager with him to do negotiations with local business partners, which is to me just super ballsy. So yeah, pretty crazy. This is honestly a great example of why you should never judge a book by its cover, because the most wanted criminal so far on this list is someone that likely looked the most unassuming, being a 70-year-old, 5'8" old man, for lack of better words. It is not likely that Yip is armed and dangerous, although it is recommended by the DEA to not approach or apprehend him. And if you do submit a tip and they catch him, that's $5 million in your pocket. So he may be a good one to go for. Ivan Archivaldo Guzman-Salazar. Okay, this man is the craziest we've talked about so far. And I know we just talked about a pretty crazy example with Yip, but this goes far beyond even that. Ivan is a 5'8", 165-pound male born in 1983. His last location is unknown and his nickname is El Chapito. El Chapito literally translates to Little Chapo in English, and he is the son of El Chapo, the man who led the entire Sinaloa cartel until he was extradited to the United States back in 2017. Already starting off crazy, being the son of one of the most notorious drug lords of all time. That being said, actually, you know, I'm just gonna say this now. This is just a video about the drug lords that the DEA wants most right now. But if you guys are interested about the most notorious drug lords of all time, let me know. Doing research for this video, I found a lot of information about drug lords, including El Chapo and a lot of others. Candidly, talking about drugs and crime and all of these violent topics isn't really great for keeping a healthy channel on YouTube. So if it's not something you guys really want, I likely won't do it. Okay, back to Ivan. Ivan shares leadership roles in the Sinaloa cartel and its massive fentanyl trafficking operation. And his alleged involvement in that branch of the business includes coordination of fentanyl trafficking into the US, shipping fentanyl precursor chemicals from China to Mexico, and collecting drug proceeds from Sinaloa cartel members and associates. On top of this, he is also responsible for the coordination and trafficking of other controlled substances on behalf of the Sinaloa cartel. So already, this man's got a huge laundry list in an extremely famous and dangerous criminal organization. On top of just being involved on the drug side of things, Ivan also takes some responsibility when it comes to the security of the Sinaloa cartel's operations, specifically commanding the Cesarios, which are the armed forces that literally work under the Sinaloa cartel, whose main job is to protect and further expand the cartel's operations. Essentially, yeah, just like its own military police. He shares this responsibility with both his blood brother and his 2 half-brothers, meaning that there is 4 brothers total responsible for a lot of these actions, but it does appear that Ivan is the point of focus. It is worth noted that one of these brothers was extradited to the US and is currently imprisoned on drug charges and is going through the court proceedings. According to the DEA, the Sinaloa cartel is largely responsible for the massive influx of fentanyl into the US over the last several years, which is a big reason why the DEA wants Ivan so badly. And this is kind of proven by his bounty. Any information that leads to the capture of Ivan could get you up to $10 million cash. 10 times what they're offering for the first 3 entries on the list, and even double what they're offering the last entry on this list, who was a huge manufacturer and distributor. The Sinaloa cartels and cartels in general are extremely dangerous, so this is one person I definitely wouldn't want to mess with. And with that, let's move on. Oscar Noe Medina Gonzalez. Oscar is 5'8", 160 pounds, and was born in 1983, and his last location was unknown. He goes by the alias Panu, and he is also involved in the Sinaloa cartel. Although we're no longer talking about El Chapito, we're kind of still talking about him, because Oscar is his right-hand man and a high-level leader of the Sinaloa cartel. He is the day-to-day commander of the operations that goes on in the security department. This sounds way too official for what it is. According to the DEA, Oscar allegedly oversees each of the Chapito's regional commanders who are responsible for the security of their designated areas within Mexico, and the Chapito's gunmen, the Cesarios, who are used when needed to protect the trafficking operations or to assassinate rival cartel members, and other things like that. One thing that you might already be noticing is that there is a connection between these criminals, and I'll kind of touch on that more at the end of this video once we discuss everybody on this list. I think it's safe to say that Oscar is up to a lot of the same stuff that Ivan was up to, but as far as his alleged federal violations, he is accused of and wanted for continuing criminal enterprise, CCE, fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, possession of machine guns and destructive devices. Yeah, you know, all the same stuff as the other guy. So these are basically the blanket charges they can give these people, but for the entries that I was able to find additional information about, you can really see how deep this goes. And in Oscar's case, he is definitely involved with, at the very least, machine guns and destructive devices. The fear tactics and sheer violence that these cartels are willing to use to maintain power is scary and honestly disgusting, and it's no surprise that this man is on this list. And with that, his reward being so high as well. The DEA is currently offering $4 million for any information leading to the arrest of Oscar. Kun Jiang. Jiang is a bit elusive, as we have no information about his height, weight, or age, or even last known address, although we know he's in China. And without much information about him being known, there is some information available about his activity in the trade. Jiang follows a similar path to Yip, just at a smaller scale, and instead of owning a company, he works for a company that is manufacturing and supplying precursor chemicals and exporting them overseas. He doesn't work for the company that Yip owns, but he does work for a company that is doing the same things and producing the same chemicals. In 2021, a co-conspirator in Mexico purchased 25 kilograms of fentanyl precursor from Jiang and his company on behalf of the Sinaloa cartel, and these chemicals were shipped directly from China to Mexico, where they arrived at the Guadalajara airport only a few days later. Fortunately, this 25 kilogram load was seized by Mexican law enforcement directly at the airport, and from that point forward, Jiang was on their list. On April 4th, 2023, a federal grand jury returned an indictment against Jiang and others, charging them with fentanyl importation conspiracy, fentanyl trafficking conspiracy, and money laundering conspiracy. Whether or not he actually makes it to the US, I guess we'll see. But right now, he is one of the DEA's most wanted individuals, and there is currently a $1 million reward for any information about him. Carlos Omar Felix-Gutierrez. Carlos is 5'6", 165 pounds, and was born in 2000, officially the youngest entry on this list. And Carlos shares a lot of similarities with the first entry on this list, Silvano, specifically the fact that they both operated secret fentanyl laboratories in Mexico, and they both have been caught. They also both shared the same laundry list of alleged federal violations. So yeah, I'll keep this one brief, but I will quickly discuss how he was captured. On March 16th, 2023, Carlos and a partner was arrested by Colombian judicial police as they were getting off of a commercial flight in Bogota. They were arrested based on charges that were given to them by the federal grand jury in the Southern District of New York. Carlos, to this day, is in custody and is pending extradition hearings on the charges I mentioned earlier. And like Silvano, Carlos does have a $1 million reward for any information leading to his conviction. So although he has been captured, I guess you can still submit tips to help solidify the case and make sure he spends time in jail. Nemesio Cervantes. This man is possibly one of the most feared and powerful men on this entire list. He stands at 5'7" tall, weighs 150 pounds, and was born in 1966. His last known location is Mexico, and he is better known as El Mencho, the leader of the CJNG cartel. Nemesio is considered the most wanted criminal in all of Mexico and one of the most wanted criminals, not just drug lords, but criminals in the US as well. For a bit of perspective on how much the DEA wants Nemesio, they are offering a reward up to $15 million, the highest we've seen so far on this list. And for good reason too. Under his command, the CJNG became one of Mexico's leading crime organizations. And with that comes extreme violence, terror, and of course, drug trafficking. For a bit of perspective on how powerful this man really is, in 2012, when a unit of the Mexican Federal Police made it known that they were actively looking for El Mencho, CJNG gang members blocked several highways and roads in the Guadalajara metropolitan area by stealing and setting at least 37 cars on fire, blocking these roads. The blockades were placed in strategic routes to prevent the police reinforcements from leaving or coming into Guadalajara, and after the attacks were over, the police confirmed that El Mencho had escaped, and this attack by the cartel was successful. Nemesio's gang and the Mexican police have had multiple firefights, leaving tens of officers and cartel members dead. I know this video isn't about violence, but the CJNG is an extremely violent cartel, and I figured I'd emphasize that point just so you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. Nemesio personally is wanted for drug trafficking, organized crime involvement, and undocumented possession of firearms. And if I had just said those charges initially, you would have definitely underestimated what this man was up to. So I figured the context was important. Nemesio is extremely powerful and capable of extreme violence and has the means to fight the Mexican police. So don't think you stand a chance trying to get this $15 million reward. On top of all of the violence, his cartel is heavily involved in the trafficking of drugs, an activity that is likely funding all of their weapons. Now, even with as crazy as this list has gotten, we still have one final entry to cover. Before we discuss the very last entry, I just wanted to share a quick observation. After reviewing this list in full, it's very obvious to see that the DEA is most focused on the fentanyl crisis currently happening in the United States. Everybody on this list is in some way connected, and a lot of this boils down to the Chapitos, who are currently running this entire operation and profiting billions off of the fentanyl crisis in the States. In the past, the Sinaloa cartel and cartels in general were making a lot of their money off of heroin and cocaine. However, now fentanyl seems to be all the rage, as it's cheaper, more potent, and because of that, more profitable and easier to smuggle. Once their father, El Chapo, was arrested, they quickly realized that fentanyl was a huge opportunity for their business and quickly began establishing connections with Chinese criminals who were creating the precursor for this chemical and willing to ship it directly to Mexico, where at that point, the Sinaloa cartel already had the means of manufacturing and the knowledge of trafficking to start distributing this new, highly profitable and highly deadly drug. So far, the DEA has seized over 2.5 million fentanyl-laced pills, over 231 pounds of fentanyl powder, and over 82 pounds of fentanyl precursor chemicals. All of these ingredients combined are able to make almost 23 million deadly doses, which is why the DEA is taking this as seriously as they are. And what you are seeing on screen is coming from the DEA directly. This is a slideshow that they made to show exactly who's involved, where it's happening, what they're doing, and what their goal is. And as you can see, it's a very simple process of the precursor being made in China, shipped to Mexico, being manufactured, and then from that point being distributed. Regardless of what you think about the war on drugs, I think we can all agree that fentanyl truly serves no purpose on the streets. With that being said, let's discuss the final fugitive on this list. Yulian, Andony, Archaga, Carias. Yulian, we meet again. If you guys watched our video on the FBI's most wanted list, then this man may look familiar, and that's because he's on the FBI's most wanted list. And for that reason, I'll keep this segment brief, but I will give a quick overview. Yulian is 5'5", 160 pounds, and born in 1982. And his last known address is in Honduras, which is in Central America. Thank you, everybody in the comments. He is on the FBI's most wanted list and the DEA's most wanted list for a few reasons, but primarily the fact that he is the suspected leader of the MS-13 gang in Honduras, which is an extremely violent gang. The reason why Yulian is wanted in the US is because he is believed to be providing firearms, narcotics, and cash to gang members that are operating within the United States. And he is also believed to be responsible for ordering the murders of rival gang members. And the authorities believe that he is still active in Honduras. Yulian is currently wanted for the following alleged federal violations: cocaine importation, racketeering conspiracy, possession and conspiracy to possess machine guns, and that's surprisingly it. It's interesting how a gang leader leader has less alleged violations than seemingly lower-level cartel members. But I suppose with him being a suspected leader, he is keeping his hands clean and having others do the dirty work. Yulian currently has a $5 million reward for any information available, although good luck. And if you want more information about Yulian, or if you're curious about the FBI's most wanted list, click the video that you see on screen right now. This video is full of crazy people doing crazy stuff. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and as always, trust me, bro.